Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Best Care Anywhere podcast. I am your host, representing the 375th QMHQ ComCPAC SolSec Rep Dep, Anthony, and joining me, my friend for all time. We're together in all kinds of weather, the same in the rain or sun, Ethan Wilson.
I gotta be honest, you nailed it. Good
Thank
job.
you. I practiced that, not just tonight, but after watching the episode, I practiced that. See, I won't be able to do it now. The 375th QMHQ ComCPAC SolSec Rep Dep, and that's slowing it down.
Rep Dep.
Oh fuck! We're finally here. Jesus Christ!
Yeah,
We
it
were
has been
audience.
a cluster.
You do not understand how close we were to just having a freaking bye week, because Jesus God. Anyway, Ethan, how are you? Tell me your troubles. Tell me your woes. You just had finals.
Yeah. I'm not gonna go into full details here because
I will. Did you have to kill your accounting teacher?
Yeah, I had to. I had to, and you know what? It's a little ugly.
I'll summarize. I'll summarize for Wilson. She's one of those teachers.
Yeah.
She has tenure, and she's gonna whip that big old tenure around like nobody's business. So yeah, hang on, hold up, pause. Who is calling my dad's business where my office is located?
Yeah, I hear that on my end.
5:30 at night on a Friday. He closed an hour and a half ago. Anyway,
emergency sign request.
Emergency sign request. But I need open house signs for tomorrow. Sorry, if you're a real estate agent listening to this podcast, God bless you. Some of you are frustrating as all hell. But anyway, sorry, I'm interrupting you, Ethan. What else goes on? So finals. Did you do all the things? Did you do the thing? Get the grade? Woohoo!
I got the grade. Woohoo! I actually turned in my last one earlier today.
Yeah.
So
how are we looking?
To say,
are we like solid B average, C average, C's get degrees? What are we looking at?
B average across the board.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. I'll take a bow. Audience, please feel free to send me moral support in the comments. I'm begging you, please.
Not
please.
Not related to the episode at all. I was very much a B average student because I did not believe in homework. Fuck you. I want a life outside of school. And I did good enough on the tests and quizzes and in-class assignments that I could basically screw off homework for all of my classes. The only failing, I say failing. The lowest grade I got in high school was a D, and that's because about halfway through I just gave up on the project in biology where you had to go collect insects, and the teacher would give you acetone in a jar and a net so you could capture insects, kill them and preserve them, and then you had to do like an insect family, not speed. What am I?
Oh my God! Man!
Yeah,
you just unlocked a core memory.
Yeah, you had to lay them out by family and genus, and the animal kingdom tree, whatever the fuck that's called, but for insects. Yeah.
You just said my brain back
halfway. About halfway through, when I realized I had 1/18 of the bugs I needed, I'm just like, fuck this. I have better things to be doing than catching bugs. Unfortunately, he weighted the grade so heavily on that fucking project that it kind of fucked me. Cool teacher. He didn't hate me for it, but he's like, yeah, this is how I grade. I told you this at the beginning of the year. You didn't do the project this class is meant for, and you get a D. And I'm like, fair, totally fair.
Understandable. Have a nice day.
It is exactly 10 days before Christmas. While we're recording this, are you stressing? Or do you have travel plans? What goes on?
So personally, I'm not stressing because the one antique store in town finally opened up, and the gentleman who runs it, after some personal turmoil, realized that price gouging in a small town gets you nowhere. So I've been doing a lot of thrifting because I mean, antiques. There's something about the gift of antiques, not just something I can get on Amazon. That
I'm imagining Bleep, Kansas is not the tourist destination that he was expecting it to be, so he can't price gouge the passers through.
Yeah, my father got 6 raccoon traps that are hanging on his wall, and, my mother is getting, probably a haunted handbag from the '30s, but, I
A
soaked it in
haunted handbag.
I soaked it in holy water, so, at that point, I've done all I can do. But no, I'm just gonna be here. I volunteered to work, Christmas Eve for that sweet, sweet time and a half.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, just chilling. What about
See,
you?
volunteering to work Christmas Eve or holidays is a vibe.
Yeah,
Being told you have to with no option to change it is not a
absolutely.
vibe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
But anyway,
what about you? Are you guys, your whole family is
I'm
staying local?
old. I'm old now.
Yep.
Not quite. I'm not 30 yet. My 29th birthday was Monday, the 11th.
Happy
So do
birthday
not. That's
to
no, it's
you.
copywritten. It's copywritten. Stop.
Oh shit. Hold on. Let me get my guitar.
No, 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 no. This is your birthday song. It isn't very long. All right. This is the second verse. It's shorter than the. God, I just
um,
unlocked a camp memory doing that. But anyway, no, my birthday was Monday, which means Sunday I did. Audience, you may notice a trend in my extracurricular activity as of the last few episodes. On Sunday, I went out and did a 6-hour hike where I only covered about 4 miles because I was geocaching again. I went off into the wilderness and found Tupperware, and it was actually kind of awesome.
well, you found
But
more than Tupperware. You
I
found
found a
like,
microwave.
yeah,
Yeah, someone hung a microwave from a tree in the very back, like wild, overgrown part of this nature preserve. Or not nature, it's BLM land. That
even better.
yeah. So it was wild. I might even post some pictures, but I will use this opportunity to say I have a new. We've mentioned this before. You can take a trackable item from cache to cache, and one of those trackable items is my truck. I have a new trackable item that is called the Kansas 2025 road trip uh, travel bug. Because prepare yourselves, audience. At some point, Ethan and I will be in the same place at the same time, but not in California. I am making it a goal in 2024 to save up enough money to do a road trip in my little Toyota Tacoma to come go visit Ethan in Kansas. Why I don't know, but I'm going to.
Oh my
So,
god, that reminds me. Can we continue this tangent just a little bit more? J-
yep, the audience
So,
has no choice. They're stuck here listening to us. Dad,
yeah.
stop texting me. God damn it! I didn't
Um
silence my phone. Go ahead.
so in my many many adventures, I somehow managed to find myself at the Boston Corbett monument on
That
Key
is,
Road.
yep.
And I know that place is where I live, but you know what? Oh well. If you guys, I'm pretty sure we mentioned the town I live in a dozen times, so it doesn't
We
matter. But
have, but I have sneakily edited it out. But yes, one of the so I for this Kansas road trip, I have a series. I want to try to hit at least one cache in each county so that my little map of counties I've cached and filled up because monkey brain light sea chart get filled ooga ooga booga. But there is a selection of caches in and around where Ethan lives, and one of them is the uh hidden at the Boston Corbett dugout, which is the homestead for this guy. Do you want to explain why this guy's famous, Ethan?
so Boston Corbett is my personal hero. He is the soldier who is largely accredited with finally putting an end to John Wilkes Booth, shooting him through a board in the burning barn and putting him down like the dog that he was. Now, that's not to say that Boston Corbett is a saint. There's a reason you haven't heard of him. Boston Corbett was batshit fucking insane, which is probably why I love him so much. Um, so yeah, he after that he was court-martialed, if I remember correctly. Uh, After he got discharged, he went back to Kansas and did some local governance, I guess you could say. And the last time anyone saw him was hopping a train out of town. Uh,
Oh
we have
boy,
we have no idea.
fun
Anyway,
times. So
it
yeah,
is.
Other than that, birthday, geocaching, it's the end of the year, which means chaos and bedlam when it comes to work. We are uh my dad, my brother and I are sitting down and looking at several things bookkeeping wise and sign shop wise and business wise, and it's stressful. It's a time. I can't legally not legally. Threat of death from employer slash father means I need to keep my mouth shut. But interesting times will be happening. So yeah, lots going on. Some things we need to discuss before we get to this week's episode. A couple things. Number one, for anyone that did not hear, we did release a bonus episode. We watched Tora
Boy, did
and
we.
discussed the history of events leading up to the Japanese Imperial Navy's attack on Pearl Harbor.
I'm
Uh,
edumacated.
he's something, all right. For those of you that tuned in and gave it a listen or gave it a watch, uh, thank you very much. I am genuinely surprised how well that did. It is basically tracking the same as a regular episode would.
Oh, that's
Uh,
really cool.
yeah, I did not know how many people would enjoy hearing me just talk about Pearl Harbor for uh 4 hours. But it was a good test for if we can do Tora, we can definitely do more directly MASH related movies in the future. I don't think we're going to be doing another one anytime soon because having the MASH movie and Tora within a month of each other and both being over 4 hours was not a good idea. But
And we were so naive going into it. I remember we both at different times said, "Yeah, it's just Tor. It's not going to be like the
in
Mash
and out,
movie."
in and out,
Yeah,
Morty. Quick adventure, short adventure, Morty.
yeah, yeah. And then 4 hours later, we were just in shambles.
No, I enjoy doing it very much. And again, I did it in the YouTube video and in the comments of that. Please go check out the creators I tagged in all that stuff, the other YouTubers and such. I believe it's Extra History. Um, I'm gonna forget his channel name now. History Buffs and the young man who did his Eagle Scout project video on one of the survivors. Those are all linked in the YouTube video and in that episode's description. Go check them out because one, if you even remotely enjoyed me talking about it for 4 hours, you will enjoy their videos on it as well. So yeah. We did have a comment I wanted to read from the Tora episode. Chad Smith says he appreciated the sidebar about oh, what was her name? The Wasp aviator.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm blanking on her name. Hang on. Cornelia Fort. He appreciated the side story about Cornelia Fort.
I call her corny.
Because don't call her corny. My grandfather was a civilian flight instructor for the Wasps at Avenger Field in Sweetwater, Texas.
Oh, that's cool.
Sweetwater is the most Texas name for a town. Um,
Yep. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
yeah. Some MASH news, some current year MASH news, believe it or not. We are getting and for people who are fans of MASH and who have grown up with MASH for a little bit, you guys, we all are aware of some of the ones that they've done before this one, but I'm very excited. We are getting a brand new, uh, documentary, I guess, about MASH. It's called MASH, the comedy that changed television, and it is going to air on Fox, on January 1st.
No shit.
Yes.
That is cool.
Now,
Oh.
I am looking at the MASH historian. Please go follow him at all the places at MASH historian because he has really good articles and little snippets about the making of MASH and the actors and little fun facts and all that jazz. But he shared this, and I'm gonna pull some of his notes, kind of skim through them. One of the big things two things I'll say. One, it says it's got all new interviews with the cast. Asterisks, most of the cast is dead. So I don't know if that means there's new interviews that were found, or if it's the same interviews we've seen before mixed in. I'm assuming there will be newer interviews with like Loretta Swit, Gary Berghoff, Alan Alda, and Jamie Farr, the ones who are still with us. Uh, but yeah, I I will add that asterisk in there, just saying I know I've seen the other MASH specials before where they use the. I think a lot of us have seen the interview with Larry Linville, the interview with uh, McLean Stevenson and Harry Morgan, the ones that we've seen before from like the late '90s. But so that's one little asterisk I'll throw in there that I saw someone mention on his post. But the exciting thing is, according to Mash Historian, the filmmaker has been working on this for 10 years.
Holy shit.
Uh, so some of the interviews that we are getting are technically new. They've just been part of this project since 2014, which means um, we might get new interviews that we have not seen before from. I, I'm I'm hoping I'm remembering my dates right, but I believe based on date of death, we might even see some interviews that we have not seen before from William Christopher, David Ogden Stiers, which is again, for those of you that maybe are following along with MASH for the first time, that's obviously William Christopher's Father Mulcahy, and David Ogden Stiers is my personal favorite character that we have not met yet, Charles Emerson Winchester. So if that's the case, I am super excited to see some new interviews, especially with David, because David, we'll talk about this when he joins the show. David was a very good actor, but he was also very private a lot of the time. And there's a really cool story about that when we get to the finale. But needless to say, very excited. Yeah, just skimming the article, make sure I'm not missing anything. Let me double check where it is available. It'll be airing January 1st, and it'll be available to watch on Hulu, at Fox.com, on demand, Fox Entertainment streaming platforms, yada yada yada. Basically, most of the places you can find streaming stuff that's not Disney Plus or Netflix. It'll be available through all of Fox's outlets. So yeah, go give that a watch. Ethan,
Yo.
I'm gonna ask a question. Now, I'm gonna pull the curtain back for the audience a little bit.
Oh God. Don't do that.
This is your first full watch through for this podcast. You're watching through the series for the first time intentionally, right?
Yo.
I will let you make the decision. Do you want to watch this for the podcast? Because so the reason I'm going to let you make this decision is because we had a very interesting conversation at the Mel's Diner when you were back for not New Year's, the other one, the one with the bird, Thanksgiving.
Yeah. The
yes,
one with the bird.
Yes, this is your first watch through, but we also discussed some other factors about your first watch through that I think you might know. You have the loose understanding of things that are going to happen, and I don't think there is anything more impactful that you could find out if we were to watch this. But
Mm-hmm.
I will let you decide. And audience, you can chime in as well. Would you like Ethan and I to watch and talk about the special, or would you, knowing that Ethan will then have to have probably know things he does not necessarily know right now? So what are your thoughts, Ethan? Do you want to
Well, here's kind of what I'm thinking. We're on episode 12 of season 2, 24 episodes in the season. So, because this is a bi-weekly podcast, 3 months and we'll be done with this season.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of thinking that that would be a really nice season break, just kind of like after the season 2 wrap up, maybe do that as an episode before going into season 3.
Maybe. So here's the thing. The big sticking point, as I've hinted at, the thing the audience is going to want to determine is, what do you know about the end of season 3? That, I think, of all 11 seasons, that is the one that I think the audience would like to get your genuine first impression on.
Mhm.
And I can almost 100% guarantee that what happens at the end of season 3, beginning of season 4, will be absolutely blown out of the water, spoiled by this documentary. That's why I ask.
Alright, I'll tell you what. I
But
I'm
but
I
hang on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave this up for audience input. But if I'm gonna do that, I feel like the audience needs to know a piece of information that we discussed.
Mm,
We don't need to get into detail.
mhm.
Ethan, do you know what happens in season 3, episode 24?
I have a vague understanding of a very important plot point that was spoiled for me on a subreddit one day.
Do you know how it happens?
No fucking idea.
Okay. So, audience, you now have the information. Ethan knows what is going to happen, but he does not know how it happens. And to be fair, we talked about this at when we were at dinner that night. It's almost impossible to Google anything about MASH if you're even a little bit curious and not have that spoiled. It's the Darth Vader is Luke's father of MASH. Like, it was such a big deal that everyone knows this, right? And I'll be honest, audience, going into this podcast, I was going to try not to talk about it very much, but I also accepted the fact that Jared and Ethan either knew already in some way or were going to hear about it somehow because of the way social media works. As soon as Ethan says the word MASH while he's recording this podcast, his phone and his computer are going to hear it, and it's going to start giving him like articles and crap through. It happens to me. I get so many MASH articles now on my recommended feed on stuff.
Oh yeah.
Even my personal account that does not interact with the podcast stuff very much. So just based on what I'm seeing, if Ethan is seeing a third of that, he knows he had to have found out what happens in at the end of season 3. So I will put it. We'll put this on the back burner. Audience, would you like us? And I'll throw a poll up once this episode goes live. Would you like us to watch the what did they call this? The comedy that changed television special shortly after it comes out in January? Would you like us to wait and do it between seasons 2 and 3, or not do it until after the events of the end of season 3? I'll leave that to the audience because this is one of those things where I know some of you are going to be bummed that Ethan has an idea of what happens, but at the same time, how could I have hid that from him without killing him, basically? So, so yeah,
That was an option.
audience, yes,
Well,
it's
well,
always an
well, well,
option.
hold on. Let's not rule anything out. I mean, let's Okay, okay, fine, fine, fine. Audience,
Yeah.
if you're out there, if you're real, big if.
I will let the audience decide that, because I think they should get a choice in how. I mean, ultimately, it's also your choice. How do you want, now that you know that that is a thing? Do you want to go in as with the level of knowledge you have now, or are you okay with it being potentially fully spoiled? Which it will be fully spoiled if we watch this special. There's no way it won't be.
Oh,
So
I'm gonna mull it over,
mull it over.
and
We'll let the
like
audience attempt to sway you to their side one way or the other, and we can make a decision at some point. So yeah, I did
I
want to
can
cover
be
that.
bribed.
Oh
Just
no,
throwing that out there.
my personal choice would be as I'm split. I would really like to talk about the special right when it comes out, because the podcast manager in me is like, that's when other people are going to watch it. That's the perfect time to watch it, because it's the hot thing everyone in the Mashverse is talking about. But the other part of me, the friend part of me, is like, no, I want you to keep not gain any more information until we get there. We're only a year and a half away, but yeah, and as far as the audience members that are still like stun locked on the fact that Ethan is aware of the events of the 24th episode of season 3, don't worry, we're gonna have a conversation about that during the season 2 wrap up before we get into season 3 because I'm actually kind of fascinated. I think in a way, Ethan is gonna have quite possibly a one in a million unique viewing of the last episode of season 3 because of where he is right now. But we can talk about that later because we are like a half hour into this episode and we haven't even talked about the episode this week. So,
I genuinely think, and this is the last thing I'll say about it before we start today's episode. I think it might behoove us to do like a live recording in the sense of we have Craig listening to us
oh yeah,
while we
that's
watch that, but also do our normal talk through after. So because I
that
don't talk good.
that is something I have been thinking about. How can we do like watching the episode, you and me watch the episode and have it live somewhere,
Hmm.
and then we go record the podcast. But that's a whole nother
Yeah.
conversation you and I have to have off camera. But anyway, um, also I'll throw this out right now. Patreon members and people who have been thinking about being Patreon members, those are the kind of discussions we're going to throw to you guys first. So if you are on the Patreon, pay attention because we're probably going to throw those out to you sooner rather than later. Some thoughts we've been having. If you're not part of the Patreon and want to have early access to that, consider supporting us on Patreon. And if you don't support us on Patreon, don't worry. We will eventually put it to the wide general audience as well. All these thoughts we're having. But anyway, enough yapping. Let's get to today's episode, shall we? Episode 12 of Season 2, The Incubator, written by Laurence Marks and Larry Gelbart, directed by Jackie Cooper, aired December 1st, 1973. Yeah, this is an interesting episode.
It
Lot of
is.
lot of thoughts we got back from the audience on this.
Really?
This immediately hang on, I just skipped forward past the intro of the episode and I realized I still opened the wrong episode. I opened Deal Me Out.
See, we're both a little off on episodes today.
That's all right. Yep, mash intro, season 2, episode 12. There we go. All right. So this episode opens for where this episode goes. This episode opening is kind of unhinged. We open on the swamp as the camera pans around to what has clearly been just a raging party in the swamp. Trapper and Hawkeye are both passed out. There's half drunk drinks everywhere. This is kind of unhinged, genuinely. Which,
Well, yeah, and Hawkeye isn't doing that hangover of his any favors because he's sleeping with all of the blood flowing to his head on that,
yeah, that's
Eden.
yeah. Fun fact: if you're ever in a situation where you're sleeping on a slanted surface, head goes uphill. Head always goes uphill. I've made
Mhm.
this mistake while camping. I not just camping. I made this mistake on the second night of a 3-night hike or a 3-day
Ooh.
hike. So the third day hiking out was just throbbing headache. Because what'll happen is blood rushes to your head, all your veins and muscles kind of, I don't want to say get engorged, but they get like stressed, for lack of a better word, and get inflamed. And that's what causes the headache. But it doesn't just go away once you stand up. Like there's that, it lasts for a few hours afterwards. So yeah, that morning hiking out was not great. And it wasn't a dehydration headache, so drinking water wasn't going to help. It just, no, thank you.
So
So,
I gotta ask you this:
mhm.
Have you ever partied too hardy? What is the closest you've got to the state that Trapper and Hawk are in?
Hmm. That is a great question. I have to think about. You, not to cast judgment on you, you probably are more likely to come to a quicker answer on this than I am.
Oh, I know it
Um,
100%. That's why I'm asking you because I know mine.
Tell us yours so I can think about mine because I'm trying to think.
I was uh so I was with this girl at the time and we were doing like a little get together with some of her friends at a family house in the Bay Area. And we're all shooting the breeze, and I'm trying to be big macho testosterone driven man. And I don't know how it comes about, but I probably made a comment about my Irish heritage, which I do, and and there got to be a discussion of a drinking contest. Now, I'm not going to let myself be undone, so I take what was I must have been a half bottle or just under of Jose Cuervo Gold, and I pounded the thing. And that was probably the worst mistake I've ever made. Excuse me a moment. Yes, you're gonna have to edit that out. Where was I? So I don't remember that night. Next morning, I woke up outside. I, you know, I blinked. I looked around, and I think I said to no one in particular, "That is the last time I drink tequila." And upon saying the word tequila, I vomited. Genuinely,
Nice.
that much of a visceral reaction. I'm told it was a
Fun.
very good night. And
I I have been thinking, so you know this about me. I do not drink to excess. I was not that kid in high school, went to parties and got drunk. I was not that kid after high school who just got unbelievably drunk. Even when I
yeah,
was with people who were getting drunk, I did not get drunk. I would drink, but I did not pound drinks one after the other until I could not stand. That
yeah,
is
you
not
don't
my
shy
vibe.
away from a good time, but you're very good at
I do
moderation.
not I do it no, I'm not, or I no, that's not it. What it is I do not like the idea of losing control of my sense of awareness and decision making. I
Ah,
don't mind getting buzzed and having a good time. I do not want to be that person who does not remember what they did, remember where they are, and have the ability to make good judgment decisions, right? That's where if I start feeling like I'm losing my inhibition, that's where I'm like, and we're done. And now it's Sprite for the rest of the night. I would say the closest I got to like, I, I, I'd say the one time I got right up to where, and you'll understand this, I think, where you're in control, you're aware of how much you're drinking, you're feeling good, you're getting a little tipsier and a little tipsier, and there's a point where the last moment you can save yourself before you've lost it, you lose enough inhibition to moderate your drinking. And then it's
right.
all downhill from there.
Oh
I
yeah.
think I've reached that peak of this is your last opportunity to tell yourself, okay, we're done, because the next drink is going to push you past that point and now you're on the downhill side. I got to that point and realized I can no longer participate in the task that we were all doing as a group for fun while drinking. And that is my cue to go sit over on the cot and play guitar and then and then fall asleep. And that was this last year back in April when we were camping on the North Coast.
Oh yeah.
Our mutual friend Joe made a kind of how I can just eyeball a good rum and coke or a good Jameson and Dr. Pepper by doing it enough times. He has got his eyeball in for pouring Moscow mules. They were very good
Wow.
Moscow mules. Like, yeah,
That's
he just
impressive.
the right amount of alcohol, the right amount of actual good ginger beer, not Canada Dry, you freaks of nature. Just the right ratio of the lime, the alcohol, and the I forget what alcohol do you use for a Moscow Mule? Is it vodka?
With Moscow in the name gives you.
I was about to say it seems obvious, but then again, I was second guessing myself. But yeah, yeah, it was good vodka, it was good ginger beer, and it was fresh lime. So it was a good Moscow Mule. So I think I did 2 Moscow Mules. And this you have to remember, I'm not pounding these drinks back to back. This was 2 Moscow Mules, a rum and this is like in the process of making dinner, eating dinner, and then post dinner, it was 2 Moscow Mules, 2 rum and cokes, and then I was when I made the decision to stop, I was sipping on a Jameson and Dr. Pepper. So it was a decent amount of high strength alcohol, but it was spaced out over a long, you know, significant amount of time.
Right.
But as we got later into the night, the speed at which I was intaking that alcohol slowly increased. And it was in the middle of our third game of liar's dice at about 9:30 at night when I could no longer add numbers that I'm like, "Hey, not like blackout drunk couldn't add numbers, but I was sitting there. I when I would like read off the numbers and then go to say the answer of I would count the numbers in my head and I'm like, and the answer is shit. Okay, count the numbers in my head and the answer is fuck. Yeah, we're done. We're done. Stop. This is the last. We're gonna finish this Jameson and Dr. Pepper, and we're done. But yeah, no, I am not a wake up the next morning and my domicile looks like whatever the swamp looks like. But yeah, that is the probably the most like this I have gotten is just to where and on top of that, I am a giggly drunk. I am a giggly storytelling drunk. And it was starting to get to the point where my mouth runneth over.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
Well,
that's when I'm like, "Oh, I just didn't stop talking for like 5 minutes. I think we're done now."
now,
So,
of course, the lawyer is tapping me on the shoulder and reminding me the Best Care Anywhere podcast
drink
does
responsibly.
not encourage drinking to excess. But for the sake of the episode,
Um, Hawkeye and Trapper arouse, and the question I have is, their tent is in the middle of the compound. What how did they debauch this hard and not, like, piss anyone off? That's my question. But
when you invite literally everyone around you, there's no one left to piss off. Look at that mess. That was a party for the ages. I'm pretty sure there was not a single person in camp, with the exception, of course, of Hot Lips and Frank, not in
and Radar.
attendance. No, Radar. Oh yeah, Radar did have to get woken up for that. Yeah.
So I've never let me put it this way. I've never been so drunk that the next day I have an aversion to normal volume conversation.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
the fact that Hawkeye wakes Trapper up and Trapper says, "I'll answer you as soon as you stop yelling." But
Uh,
yeah, that I never understood the enjoyment of drinking so much that you one empty the entire contents of your digestive system, two forget everything that happened, and three feel like absolute shit the next day. I do not understand.
See, it's societal pressures in our pretty much every piece of media that we consume that makes it seem like a great idea at the time.
Audience, feel free to share with us your best night out stories. But okay, hang on. I've gotta throw this story out
Oh
here.
fuck yeah.
I just remembered it as soon as I said night out. And yeah, this episode's gonna be a 2-hour episode. I don't care anymore. So most of the audience, hello, listener. You will know if you have listened to enough episodes of this podcast that both Ethan and I were members of the Boy Scouts of America, now Scouts BSA, and I am still an assistant scoutmaster. In I want to say 24, yeah, it was the year after I graduated high school. So it was like my second year as an assistant scoutmaster. For context, I was still an assistant scoutmaster with the troop. So a bunch of the kids that were younger scouts when I was an older scout were still in the unit. I had been senior patrol leader, basically the youth. It's the scoutmaster and the senior patrol leader that run the troop. Mostly the senior patrol leader. That's how it should be, at least.
Sure.
So a lot of the scouts that were still in high school or the younger scouts who were just getting into middle school, they knew me as an older scout more than they knew me as a scoutmaster. So I'm at one of the high school football games. My high school I had just graduated from a year before with a couple scouts who were like a year. They were my age group, but they had not turned 18 yet, so they were still youth members. So we were hanging out, da 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 da, and they mentioned, "Oh, Andrew Scout over there the one on the field playing football, he's having a party after the game tonight. And I'm like, oh, is he? That's interesting because I know Andrew Scout's parents. And that seems like absolutely not a thing that would be going on. They're like, oh, Andrew Scout's parents are out of town. And I'm like, oh dear. Like, well, are you guys gonna go? And they're like, yeah, we'll probably hang out. And like, I'm thinking about this kid Andrew, and I'm like, Andrew seems intelligent. Is this like a party, or is this like some of the football guys, some of the cheerleaders, and some of the, you know, some of his scout friends are just gonna be hanging out? I'm like, Andrew doesn't seem like the, wild child type person. So I'm like, okay, this doesn't seem like it's gonna be bad. And these other two kids, uh, oh, I'm trying to think of fake names, and I just
Jimmy and
realized one.
Johnny.
Jimmy and Johnny. There we go. Jimmy and Johnny are like, well, we're gonna go up there after the game. We're gonna carpool over with him, and it'd be cool if you came and hung out. I'm like, I am gonna leave the game early because I want to go get dinner. I will check in. I will check in with y'all and see how it's going. So I go eat dinner. I kind of forget about the party. My phone rings at 11 p.m. and it's Johnny, one of the two scouts slash friends that went to this party. So I answer. I said, "Hey, Johnny, what's up?" And he's like, "Hey, man, are you gonna come by the party?" And I'm like, "I kind of forgot. I don't know. It's getting late." He's like, could you please come here? We need some help." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" Well, so um, a lot of people showed up, and now the police are knocking on Andrew's
Oh.
door, and everyone's afraid to answer. We're all just like, we turned all the lights off and we're sitting here quietly. And I'm like, okay. So I drive up there and I'm on the phone with Johnny. The road to their house, their family is very well off. So they're on one of those long driveways uh in the foothills near where I live that have only like 3 houses on this road, and they're all like $2-3 million plus houses, and the entire road is jammed with cars. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? By the sheer miracle of miracles, the person on their street that called the cops on this basically Project X house party is what this turned into, is father of one of my best friends who graduated the same year as me, who fortunately knew me because I'd been over to his house a couple times. So I said, "Hey, Mr. Smith, what's going on?" They're like, "Hey, Andrew so and so apparently threw a big freaking house party while his parents are out of town, and I called the cops." I'm like, "Okay, I know Andrew and his family. One of the people at the party called me to come help them break it up and get everyone out of here. Has anyone's car been towed?" They're like, "Nope, the police are here trying to." I'm like, "Okay." Basically, what happened is there was a little agreement between Placer County Sheriff's Department, me, and the homeowner that called the cops, like, "Hey, I'm a responsible over 18-year-old who is here to help get this to not be happening anymore. I will make sure that anyone who leaves here is either sober or has a ride." And that was enough not to get anyone's car towed. So I go up, I bang on the door, I get let in by Andrew and Johnny and Jimmy, and I just say, "What the fuck is going on?" What had happened was this little fun high school party got leaked on Craigslist.
Oh, good lord.
So you had Sierra College, Chico, Sac State, all the high schools within 25 miles. Everyone came and just showed up at this address. And this poor, barely two brain cells to rub together kid did not know how to handle it. So for the next 3 hours, I basically rounded everyone who was still there up and said, "Okay, who of you are sober, genuinely sober, and drove themselves here?" Like three or four, there's like 25 people still there, all like seniors and juniors in high school. A couple of them had already graduated my year. And I go, "Okay, get the fuck out. You're gone. You're done. Leave." The rest of you, who here got dropped off or cannot drive home, bunch of hands go up. It's like, okay, who of you can call for a ride? All right, get the fuck out. The rest of you, Andrew, Jimmy, Johnny, and like 5 other people who had drank and were not capable, not incoherent, but definitely shouldn't be driving. Here's what you're gonna do. You're all gonna clean up until you can't clean no more. You're all gonna lay down in the guest room here in the game room, and you're all gonna set alarms on your phone for 8 a.m. When those alarms go off, you're gonna get up, finish cleaning, get the fuck out of Andrew's house. To this day, I do not think Andrew's dad knows I was there. And I don't know how that conversation would go. It's 10 years later now, so I think the next time I see him, I'm gonna be like, hey, question for you. But basically, I went in and den mothered a bunch of these drunk high school students so that one of them didn't get killed by his parents when they got home on Monday. So, yeah, that was a time. And then to make that night even better, a totally separate story for another time, I picked up a hitchhiker on 193.
I forgot about that part. What that?
Dude, it was one of the weirdest nights I have had in my entire life. But yeah, so yeah, and again, you have to remember, audience, I think we've talked about this tangentially. This was the year, almost a year after, exactly a year, not even a year, probably 8 months after I was in the head-on accident that killed one of our adult leaders, and I got really like sentimentally attached to the young men under my charge in my scout troop. So it's like part of this was like parental protector, but also you fuck this. There was also the like senior patrol leader talking to a younger scout of, you moron, you don't spray aerosol on the fire. You moron, you know your parents are gonna fucking think, dumbass. You don't just post your address on the internet and say you're having a party. But yeah. Yeah, it was a time. It was fun. Definitely one of the weirder scouting stories that I don't really tell because it wasn't a scout thing, but it was one of our troops, Eagle Scout, by the way, did this. But yeah.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
God. Anyway, so yeah. I don't even know where to go from that. We've gotten off on this whole drinking and partying tangent. I want to circle back. So Hawkeye and Trapper wake up. Frank comes in. I would like to know your thoughts on this Frank, Hawkeye, and Trapper interaction we get for a couple minutes. How did you like Frank coming in? And I don't know what I want to ask. Just give me your thoughts, Ethan. What do you think of Frank in this scene?
It's weird. It's probably, if we're being honest, one of the most friendly interactions they have had. In just an odd way, because Hawkeye and Trapper are just so used to what does he say? Getting tongue lash,
Yes.
He's almost almost an authority figure to them in the scene, and I get that that's for a gag,
weird.
but it's still so odd.
Now, before we go any further, I can't skip over the fact that Radar comes in to bring them coffee, and they ask him, I have the distinct memory of waking you up at about 3:30, and says, no, it was 10 to 4. You said you wanted to sacrifice a virgin. Well, did we? I was too sleepy. I love it.
Well,
But, so back to Frank real quick. Yeah, I was shocked. Again, something I've probably noticed, but jumped out at me because I was watching this episode much more closely, how congenial and like not friends but not enemies this conversation is. Like, Frank's kind of poking fun at them than being angry they were partying, and they're kind of poking fun at him instead of being angry that he's Frank. Do you have anything to say about this, about us? No.
No.
Don't expect me to come in after your night of debauchery to cleanse you with a tongue lashing. I'm not your mother. Like, it's such a weird scene for Frank, but it's I had a realization, and for anyone who has watched through the series before, you'll appreciate this. I would like people who have watched the series before to imagine this conversation and replace Frank with Charles Winchester. It is stunning how close to begrudging friend Frank is in this scene, similar to what uh Charles eventually becomes. And yeah, spoilers for Ethan. It's interesting to see how close they could have rewritten Frank's character to be more in a Charles light this early in the series. But what do you think, Ethan? I enjoy more now that I'm watching the series for the podcast. I enjoy. I think I said this at the end of season one. Frank and Margaret, and it's specifically in this moment. I'm liking Frank's little jet poking fun at these guys that he's doing.
No, it's good. I like it. What happened to those bright-eyed, bushy-tailed young surgeons I once knew? It, what it reminds me of more than anything. It reminds me of the movie. The when
Mm-hmm.
they first meet that version of Frank in the tent, and he's praying. It's it's nice. I know I'm not going to get used to it, and I know I still hate Frank for all of the crimes he's committed
Frank,
against
Frank,
Jin.
I think if we were to, because I listened back to some of our recent episodes while I was working the other day. I think as of right now, this is probably the most friendly Frank is to Trapper and Hawkeye. And so far, I think we've said that the other end of the spectrum, the most like wild Frank has gotten is when he and Margaret brought Henry up on charges of aiding and abetting the enemy. Like that's Frank's scale of good versus bad right now. He hasn't done anything crazy bad except almost get Henry charged for treason, and he hasn't done anything incredibly good except kind of, I'd say this and the episode where he's just pulling like childish pranks on Hawkeye. Like that's like the spectrum of good Frank and bad Frank right now.
Yeah.
But so we jump to post-op where Trapper and Hawkeye are attempting to make their rounds while dealing with impressive hangovers. One of their patients is suffering from post-operative infection, which has caused a fever. Basically, for anyone not medically knowledgeable like myself and Ethan, that's your body was open for surgery, it got contaminated by something, and you now are having a post-operative infections are relatively common, uh, especially back in this day where the tools available to the doctors to identify what type of infection is it, what sickness do they have, and being able to treat it quickly, as we're going to see, was less streamlined than it would be now in a modern hospital. But no big deal. They take a sample of blood, they get it to the lab, and they have to ship it to Tokyo, and they will get an answer in 72 hours, which is insane to think that I could be in the hospital with a potentially life-threatening infection, and it's like, well, give us 3 days and we'll figure out what it is. Insanity. Craziness. And I don't like thinking about it.
Well, then don't. I don't
All
think
right.
ever. It's working out really well for me.
Again, not to get controversial, but modern medicine is a fucking gift, and the fact that people look at it and go, nah, I'm just going to rub this crystal on my forehead, or nah, I don't believe in that because I think it's going to turn me into a Bigfoot ape person, or nah, I don't believe in modern medicine because it's all fake and the government's going to, turn me into a pigeon or some bullshit. Like, boggles my mind. But anyway,
I'm gonna let that comment slide because as a Bigfoot ape person myself, I just little offended,
not
but I'm gonna.
literally Bigfoot, fucking canoe shoe wearing ass. Anyway, um, So Hawkeye and Trapper are motivated to try to improve their hospital's ability to diagnose in house. So they're going to go to Henry. And Henry and Radar are working on a very interesting DIY, well, not DIY project. They're assembling a army issued barbecue. You can tell because it's green. Um,
The lead paint really brings out a nice
yeah, that.
flavor.
Yeah, I'm sure getting that lead paint real hot is a great idea. But so basically, Radar has acquired this barbecue through the regular channels for Henry. Apparently, this is something you can requisition through the army. Uh, Henry is gonna barbecue some steaks on it. Now, Ethan,
Yeah.
very important question. How do you like your steak?
Rare, but not blue rare like Henry does.
Okay, so like not somewhere between rare and medium rare?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. I see this is one of those things where I don't know what I like because I was the kid who would turn to the when they'd ask me, when we'd go to the, Sierra Steakhouse and Grill up in Auburn once every few months, and they'd ask me, "How would you like your burger cooked, young man?" I just turned to my dad and he'd go, "Medium rare." Like, so because of that, I like my steak medium rare because I know that I like it that way. I definitely know I don't like it well done because here's the thing: I've had well done steak. If it is seasoned and cooked properly, there you can have a good well done steak. And I know half of the podcast audience just stopped listening once I said that. But
Yeah,
it's not
what
impossible to have something over medium rare that is good. It's not impossible. I've seen it done.
do you remember that King of the Hill line? But what if they want their steaks well done, Dad? We ask them politely yet firmly to leave.
Exactly. But at the same token, I look at people who eat rare steak and just go, like, rare. Like you've got grill marks and a little bit of color on the outside, but that's it. I'm like,
Blue rare is the term
yeah,
I think.
that's just like I know if you get it, the meat can get hot enough that it kills most of any pathogens or stuff that you should be worried about in red meat. But I don't know. There's something about a good piece of medium rare meat that is just it's kind of like a similar question. This is Ethan. How do you like your bacon?
I like it. Yeah, I've never had bad bacon. I don't know what the question
Okay,
is.
crispy in the middle or just slightly brown so it's still very rubbery and soft
Oh God, in the middle.
in
Like
the middle. Okay,
I don't want it
yeah,
burnt, but I want a little give, but there has to be more crunch than chew.
yeah. I kind of like fries. I want the edges to be crisp, but I want the middle to be a little bit of chew to it. But I can appreciate that there are times where a lower, less crispy piece of bacon is good, and there are times like if you're chopping it up to add into something, you want crispy, right? Like I get it. Cook your steak however you want. I say all that to say Henry's fucking psychotic. What the
Yeah.
fuck is Henry's steak preparation? I sprinkle sugar on it and then pour brandy over them.
I actually and I didn't
Now
realize
hang on.
until I okay.
Is he saying steaks or pork chops? Because pork chops, because it's pork, I could see where sugar and brandy, because pork, and again, I cook a little. I cook for myself enough that I know what I like. I am definitely not a chef, so take everything I'm going to say with a grain of salt, literally or figuratively. Pork for me tends to be more apt for like sweet, like I don't want to say sweet like dessert, but like I'd rather have a sweeter barbecue sauce on pork than I would on like beef. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like beef is more savory to me. Pork, like for example, you can do like a Hawaiian style like sweet sauce on a pork or like
sure.
pineapple or stuff. And you can do it on steak or on beef too, but I feel like one is more suited to the other. Red meat versus white meat. But
So when I was still living in California, in elementary school or somewhere around there. My father had a roommate to make rent, right? You know, because we were
Hmm.
living in that little piece of shit place right off the freeway. And, you know, the roommate, well, let's call him Dave. Dave was a nice enough guy, although in hindsight, now that I, you know, am a little more worldly and experienced, definitely a meth addict. So
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
during one of my family health crises, for lack of a better term, you know, I was left to fend for myself for a few days, and you know, day three rolls around, and Dave walks in and goes, uh, "Dad told me you'd be hungry, and got us some steaks." And you know, he got some chuck steaks from the Sierra Market, and he prepared them as Henry did. No salt, no pepper,
Wild. No
cast
salt, no
iron,
pepper.
cast iron skillet, Jack Daniels, and sugar. And you want to know the damnedest thing?
Mm.
It was the worst fucking thing I'd ever tasted. I did not eat steak for
Yeah,
about
sugar.
2 years after that.
Cause like, okay, sugar on steak or barbecue. That's like barbecue sauce has sugar in it, like either naturally or added sugar, and that's what caramelizes and gets all crispy. Or on a honey glazed ham, that's why it gets crispy because that sugar caramelizes and crackles. And oh god, I haven't eaten since about 10 o'clock today. I am so fucking hungry right now talking about this. But yeah, just sprinkling plain white sugar and pouring brandy on it. Like I could see how that would make like a pan sauce maybe, but I'd still have to add salt and pepper at least. This is unhinged. Henry's unhinged. I'm just saying that. Henry's
Yeah.
unhinged.
Yep. Hmm.
That's an unhinged thing to do is steak. Now, medium rare for me, just past rare for you. Are you just a plain salt and pepper guy? Are you salt pepper? Are you like a mushroom and onions and butter type guy? Like what is your steak preparation?
What I'm gonna say is gonna really make a lot of people mad at me because I know it's a Midwest thing. I didn't know it was a Midwest thing until I had
Mhm.
roommates. So, steak preparation: salt and pepper, butter in a cast iron skillet, get it up nice and hot, rosemary and garlic in the butter. Not a lot,
Okay, yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
enough. Um,
Rosemary, garlic butter, and
yep,
just baste it.
yeah, yeah. Sear it on both sides and then cover it if possible for 2 to 3 minutes aside.
You're
Uh,
almost roasting it a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit. And that gets you like it gets the middle warm, but it doesn't cook it, you know? So like it
Mhm.
kills the bacteria, but I'm not biting into cold meat. Here's the part where people hate me. My father taught me this. His father taught him this. It is very popular in the Midwest. I don't know why I have to qualify it with so much, but apparently I do.
Swear to God, if you say A1 steak sauce.
No, I
Okay.
take my steak with ketchup on the side to dip it in.
Audience, I know. Audience, breathe. Breathe, take a breath, put down whatever you're about to swing.
Why is this so weird to people? It is the way I was raised out here. I thought it was weird when people didn't do it, and then I do it, you know, at my own home, and I'm looked like I grew a third fucking arm.
I would have been
Say
happier.
something.
I would have
Okay.
been happier if you said A1 steak sauce, honestly. Um, that's unhinged.
So what do
That
you
is
mean?
unhinged. Okay, if you go out, okay, I come out in June of 2025 for your birthday. I we go down to Manhattan and find the nicest steakhouse. Be honest with me. Would you ask for ketchup? Be don't 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 step back from this hill that you're dying on now. Would you ask for ketchup at a maybe not the most expensive steakhouse, but like above a chain? Not it's not a Cattleman's, it's not a Brookfields. It is a one of one steakhouse.
At every steakhouse I have been to back here, there is already ketchup on the table next to the salt and pepper.
Now I'm doubling down. This is a nice enough steakhouse. There is not ketchup on the table.
I'm not.
No, because you know that's an unhinged thing to ask for. to the general population.
No, I don't. I thought this was normal. I grew up like this. So, okay, nicest steakhouse near me is called the Buffalo Room outside of Mankato, Kansas. Incidentally, it's where me and the biker crew all meet up
Okay, hang
the
on. I'm
morning
gonna write that
before.
down. I'm gonna write that down because I want to see what Mankato, Kansas has to offer for steakhouses when I'm back out there.
Well, we aren't
Okay.
going to that one because we're
Oh,
going to
okay.
Manhattan. But every single table, ketchup, salt and pepper. It's I don't know why it's so foreign to people. Uh,
Okay, I'll tell you the unhinged thing I do that gets me weird looks. Which I'll be honest, it's way less unhinged than dipping your steak in
yeah, so
ketchup.
aren't you so much happier that I went first?
My way less unhinged thing is every once in a while, and have a distinct like core memory of when I learned to do this. It was actually at the Sierra Bar and Grill in Auburn, ironically enough.
Mm.
Um, I learned this from my dad, and I don't do this every time I have fries, but I'd say a third of the time when I'm feeling it. Like at Mel's or Denny's is like the common place I would do this. You get burger and fries, big squirt of ketchup on the side of the plate, green Tabasco, couple drops of green Tabasco, mix it in with the. I have had people look at me like I am an insane person dipping fries in the Tabasco ketchup. That is still way less unhinged.
I'm trying desperately to find a photo of the tables made up with it because I need
I
some
don't doubt that
validation.
there's ketchup on the table, Ethan.
You know what? I'm not gonna apologize.
God,
Uh,
we're
th-
we're going off. This is gonna be a 3-hour episode. Jesus Christ. Okay. Do you dip your fries in your milkshake?
no, that's not really for me.
Yeah. Nah. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I see the allure, salt, sweet and savory. I get, but okay. I'll tell you an even more unhinged thing that I did one time, and I
Okay.
thought it was unhinged until I tried it, and I would love to do this again with the boys the next time the boys hang out.
Hmm.
So my buddy Spencer and I, when we were in Scouts, he had to do some service hours for a rank, and the troop didn't have anything coming up on the calendar, so he and I looked for an opportunity to do service. And up at one of the summer camps near us, it was late February, early March. They were starting to it was the a group of staff and the Order of the Air were going to go in and do like the initial check for damage, uh uh start prepping the camp because they had a couple events before the actual summer camp program started. So it was right up the free. It's Marine Sierra, so right up off 20 and 80. So we go up there. It's still like 2 feet of snow on the ground. It was actually kind of cool. We stayed in the bunkhouse at the top of the lodge. And the last night we're there, one of the adults overseeing this goes into town and brings back like 5 1-pound packs of thick cut bacon and a box of Hershey's chocolate bars.
Okay.
Hang on. They fry up the entire 5 pounds of bacon. 5 pounds of bacon is like shrinks down to not a lot of bacon.
Yeah.
And they double boiled, meaning, for those of you that don't know, boiled water, put a metal bowl on top of the pot of boiling water or simmering water, and use the residual heat from the steam to slowly melt down a handful of these Hershey's chocolate bars. Spread the bacon out on a baking tray, drizzled it with the Hershey's chocolate, stuck it in the freezer for about 10 minutes to let the chocolate harden. And I'm like, what? This is like 10:30 at night at in the middle of fucking winter at this scout camp. Chocolate covered bacon is my new favorite thing, and I have not had it since then. And I am scared to admit to people that I want to because I feel like I'll be shunned by society. The salty, meaty, savory sweetness of chocolate dipped bacon is fucking insane. And I would love to do it again with the boys, like on a camping trip or something.
Well, audience, needless to say, this is going to be the last episode of Best Care Anywhere. It's been a great
Okay,
ride.
stop. This is not unprecedented. Have you got okay, bitch, just for that, I'm not gonna mail you any of my mom's maple brown sugar candied bacon she
Wait,
makes for
no, no,
Christmas.
hold on, no. I'm sorry, please.
No, yeah, I know there's some people out there that's that's unhinged. But also, there are some people out there going, "Fuck yeah," and I see you and I hear you and I respect that. So yeah, where were we? How did we get here? Sugar brandy steaks, which is fucking wild to me. But again, I haven't tried it. Ethan, you've tried it and you said they sucked. But then
Oh
again,
yeah, they're awful.
admittedly, you admitted they were made by a meth head. So
He was sober at the time. No, never mind. Okay.
anyway, so Hawkeye and Trapper come in, uh, stating that there's the conversation about how wild their party was last night. Henry says it was a real wingding. He didn't think you could get 4 people into a sleeping bag. Um, they say that they're not impressed with Henry's barbecue because they are trying to pursue an incubator, telling Henry we decided we'd to open up a hospital instead of a restaurant. And the conversation ensues that if they want to get an incubator, they're going to have to go over Henry's head. And Henry is rightfully annoyed at this. And he says, I hate that you guys go over my head straight to radar. You should put your request in my inbox and I'll get to it. Which leads to the great line, Henry, leaving an idea with you is like leaving a baby in a dumpster. Which is
Jesus Christ. I'm stealing that.
yeah.
I don't know how I'm gonna slip that into my everyday life, but I'm gonna.
So getting to the main plot of the episode, we have a representative from Quartermaster Corps come, Captain Sloan, who is played by the actor Eldon Quick. This is his first of 3 mashes, or first of 3 mash episodes. He does return, but not as Captain Sloan. He returns as it's basically Captain Sloan with a different name. He does, and I think you'll agree, Ethan, he does this army bureaucrat legit, he's basically an army nerd. He manages invoices and inventories. And he plays it so well that I looked at the other 2 episodes that we're going to see him in, and he's such a perfect person for the situations he's in. But Captain Sloan comes in.
Okay,
Yeah.
just to be clear, I genuinely think that Eldon Sloan, did you say? Or Eldon Quick?
Eldon Quick. Eldon Quick.
I believe that Eldon Quick probably did some wet work for the CIA, because I promise you, if you look up any photo of, operators in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s, they all look like him, and they have all stacked more bodies than you can possibly imagine.
He does have government drone energy, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he does have kind of Man in Black energy. Like, you didn't see that secret spy plane. You didn't. Yeah, he gives off that vibe of just no humor, very dry. But yeah, I kind of love him.
He knows what it's like to look into a man's eyes when you take their life. That's all I'm saying. CCOM pack.
Yeah, so Hawkeye and he's very much a square, doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, doesn't laugh at Henry's joke about sex, which again makes Henry uncomfortable because Pierce and McIntyre come in and they start talking about the need for an incubator. But before that, Captain Sloan introduces himself as representing the 375th QMHQ ComCpac Solsec Rep Dep.
Maybe I will have that drink.
So I think I have translated this correctly.
Oh my God.
So again, grain of salt. The 375th is the unit designation. QMHQ, Quartermaster HQ, ComCpac, C, not the letter, C as in SEA, which stands for Commander Southeast Asia Pacific. So the Southeast Asia Pacific Command.
Mm-hmm.
Rep Dep, I'm not sure what rep would be, but I'm assuming Dep is department. So Sol Sector, I'm assuming rep is an acronym for something like requisition something and something, or requisition supply. I don't know. But yeah, 375th, Quartermaster HQ, Southeast Asia Pacific Command Seoul Sector quartermaster department, basically. So he represents the entities in the Southeast Asia Pacific Command that get the armies fighting in Korea their equipment. That's basically what that translates to. Again, grain of salt. Don't know if that's 100% accurate, but yeah. I basically did broke down what I know. Like I know HQ is headquarters, QM is quartermaster, COM is command, SEA would be Southeast Asia, PAC is Pacific because they still use a lot of these acronyms today. But that is my rough, educated guess of what that means. So yeah, 575th QMHQ ComCPAC SolSec RepDep. Anyway, so they mentioned to Captain Sloan what we would like is an incubator. So he pulls out the good book, the Manual of Requisition and Supply, and he reads through inoculator, infusilator, inhalator. Ah, there it is. 437 stroke R2 incubator. Dar she blows, screams Henry. He reads the description, and Ethan, were you aware of what an incubator was?
I had a basic idea from operations I had. It essentially it's sort of a centrifuge to test blood, but it also has to be at a
No,
very specific degree.
negative, Ghost Rider.
Oh.
Incubator is you take a petri dish, smear a sample on it, and those samples are meant to be in a mammalian warm-blooded body, right?
Mm-hmm.
An incubator
Oh.
is essentially an oven for germs. This is where I wish we had Jared here because we could talk the science. An incubator is quite literally you're creating the warm environment needed for germs to procreate so that you can then have a sample to test and find out what it is. Or you're growing bacteria for an experiment or something. It's basically a germ farm.
Well, and I this question, I don't know, but kind of what I'm getting at is if you're already growing the culture in the incubator, well, it's growing in the patient. Like the dude's right there.
Yes, I don't know all the medical reasons that they would need a bigger sample, but they do. I don't know. My guess is because I don't know. This is where we are crossing into medical knowledge that I do not have. Audience, listener, hello. If you have a better explanation here, because I could not find a good one in my research, please let us know. But essentially, incubator help them be better doctor, so they need. According to Captain Sloan, they cannot have one. It would be considered a luxury. It is not on their BEL or basic equipment list. Hawkeye then points out that they're not asking for a jukebox or a pizza oven. Oh, those I can let you have. Which is just insanity. And again, I'm not going to go on a whole big tangent about how this reminds me of working at summer camp. But I love that this episode kind of deconstructs not deconstructs, but it kind of flips on the head the like America all-powerful military industrial complex. So powerful that they can give their units jukeboxes and pizza ovens, but somehow can't manage to get them equipment that would actually be beneficial.
Could I still get the pizza oven though?
I know, I would absolutely. No, I'd want a smoker. Going back to the cooking thing, not a whole lot of barbecuing in my family. Occasionally, occasionally steaks or ribs or stuff like that. My mom is a smoker. She smokes meat. She does tri-tips, briskets. Oh,
I'm gonna
God
go ahead and order
damn.
Panda Express for you because you need some food in
Dude,
there.
I am hungry as shit. I love that the way that you requisition a pizza oven is just use the standard S/1798 form and write in pizza where it says machine gun. This reminds me of something that I forgot about during our Tora conversation, but I saw since then, and I thought it'd be perfect to bring up in this episode. I mentioned during when we were talking about Tora, I mentioned that there was no way the Axis could have won, and you had asked, "Is that line of thinking people have. And we had a short conversation about how one of the biggest factors of World War II wasn't how strong the armies were or better strategy, it was logistics. Who could make more bullets, bandages, and beans for their army, right?
Hmm.
There is a story about how a Japanese commander knew that Japan had lost the war. The United States Navy had ships that would follow troop deployments around and Navy convoys around that could make anywhere from 3 to 7 gallons of ice cream a minute. That's all the ship did was make ice cream to distribute to the mess halls for the invasion force.
Oh my god.
Japan couldn't keep its own troops supplied with rice and bullets. The Americans could have fresh ice cream, not necessarily in their foxholes, but pretty damn close. That is
USA!
how
USA!
that is both a fascinating and completely unfucking hinged piece of information. Like, wow, that's insanity. But in fact, that was the reward for any ship that retrieved a downed naval aviator. It was typically tradition to exchange, basically hold the aviator, quote, hostage, unquote, aboard the destroyer or the submarine or what have you, until the aircraft carrier gave them X amount of gallons of ice cream. Again, they're going to give them the pilot back anyway, but as a thank you for recovering the pilot, the ship would give them X number of pints of ice cream. So yeah, hundreds of gallons of ice cream a day from these ships when the Germans didn't have oil and the Japanese could barely feed their occupying armies. Insane. And I love that this episode kind of says, yep, America can do all that, but they still somehow managed to fuck it up.
Yeah. Oh well. I mean, I don't know.
So Radar and Trapper are determined to get an incubator. They ask Radar to uh, search search all of Korea for one, and he comes up with an answer. There are 3 incubators sitting down at the nearby evac hospital, the 720 something, the 728th evac. There we go. The 728th evac has 3 incubators, so they're going to go down and get one. They arrive at the 728th and meet Major Morris, played by a actor named Ted Gearing. This is his first of 2 mashes. He is also known for his appearances in Bad Company and the Thomas Crown Affair. But essentially, Major Morris won't let them have one because he is. I don't even know how to describe it, Ethan. Is he obsessive compulsive? What would you call this? His whole thing is I have 3 that aren't broken, they've never even been opened, never been used, but if I give you one, then I'll only have 2. Like, what is he doesn't make any sense to
No,
me.
well, I mean, we come to find out why they're doing it, I guess, but
Yes.
I don't know. I think it's just supposed to be another sort of jab at the red tape and bureaucracy of it all. That's my best guess, and it is just a guess.
Mhm. So after Major Morris, they go to Colonel Lambert.
This
Colonel
was
Lambert.
uncomfortable.
This was uncomfortable. Colonel Lambert, played by Logan Ramsey. This is his only appearance on MASH, I believe.
Thank God.
Colonel Lambert is so here. I'm going to ask you a question.
Yes.
Colonel Lambert is in his off-base home, being entertaining his guests that are Hawkeye and Trapper. They're being served tea and rice cakes by his moose, for lack of a better term. And he asks her after they explain what they want and what they are trying to do. He asks her, "What do you think?" And she says, "They're full of it."
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think of that, Ethan? Because I've been running this through my mind every time I've ever watched this episode.
uh, I think it's surprisingly perceptive, but I see where you're coming from. Even Slick Hair, and I get that we know more about them than the Commandant does, but Hawkeye and Trapper, you can just see it in their eyes. They're operators.
So that's
They're
not how I read it. What they're asking for makes sense. They're a hospital unit, and incubator would be helpful to them. What reason would this uh I'm assuming young Korean lady, because this is in Busan,
Mhm.
unless Colonel Lambert's in Tokyo and then whatever. What reason would she have to hear that, obviously understand it, and make a ruling saying, yeah, no, my recommendation is don't give them what they want. What?
I don't think they're full of it means that they're lying because they're being very open and truthful about what they're using it for. She's just what I believe is that she's just commenting on Hawkeye and Trapper themselves. How
Mm,
he's putting on his best. You catch more flies with honey than vinegar. Act for him.
interesting. Do you
There's
want to?
only so much you can do. No, no, go ahead.
When I first, the first couple times I saw this episode, I thought, are they suggesting she's a North Korean agent? Like, did she weasel her way into being the girlfriend of a colonel just so she could like subvert? Like, this is much younger me, but that's where my younger brain went. Like, is she like playing a part? Which is not, again, not spoilers, but in the future we do get an episode that involves a North Korean agent and his experiences with the 4077th. And it's not too dissimilar to what this lady's position would be if that were the case. And I think I'm kind of projecting that episode on this episode. How do
So
I
here, here,
ba-
here. Go ahead.
the first couple times I don't think I think this now, but I found it interesting that the first couple times I watched this episode, I assumed that she was like a North Korean agent or something. And she recognizes that, of course, them having an incubator would make them better at their job. So obviously, she doesn't think they should get an incubator. And she's like using her like feminine influence on the colonel because clearly the colonel's dumb in that sense. So I don't know. That it was. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think she's just trying to get on Papa San's good side. But yeah,
And, if you ever, in the course of our friendship, say Papa San to me again, I am going to cry.
okay.
So as you know, I am the way that I am, for better or more likely worse. We're all aware of this, right?
Hmm.
I have had to go to several weddings for several different denominations. The one that springs to mind is the Mormon weddings I've been to. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I go as best I dress up. I mean, of course, it's a wedding, I'm going to dress up, but I'm on my best behavior. But they know. They knew. They knew I was an outsider. And I just think that's what's going on here. Sweet
Mm-hmm.
nothings in sort of the con man esque way that Hawkeye and Trap handle
I'm
all of their
already.
business with. She
Oh,
knows.
yeah. On that note, I'm already rehearsing the how do I explain to people I meet in Kansas that I'm from California without getting shot. Already rehearsing that conversation.
I say Nevada.
Uh, my truck
That's
has a
not true.
license plate on it. Uh, it's not that hard. Yeah, no. I feel like I'm just gonna give off obviously not from around here vibes.
And
So,
so do I. They love me.
well, yeah,
I
that's
th-
because you're a native son. That's different.
it ain't me.
So, Colonel Lambert starts talking to them like, oh, they need an incubator. He starts doing the math in his head and he says it's going to come to an even grand cash to get them an incubator. And they kind of come to the realization, ah, this is a con. This is a He's preparing a little doggy bag for Switzerland, as Hawkeye says.
You need to
Which,
explain that to me. Because, I mean, I
so,
get the basic meaning of it, but I'm unaware of it in the historical sense.
so I don't know myself. I understand that having a quote Swiss bank account is basically a foreign bank account that the U.S. government can't see or tax. Uh, yeah, basically having a Swiss bank account means allowing a person to keep cash deposits offshore in a country highly regarded for both their privacy and security, and where you can hide it from entities that would want to. Yeah, Swiss bank accounts have been long associated with mystery, intrigue, and possibly illegal wealth.
Okay.
So
See, what I went a whole different direction. I thought, oh my God, is he just going to pilfer whatever he can and then move to Switzerland? But that makes more sense. He's pilfering all he can to sell, to set himself up for life after the war.
yeah, basically.
10-4.
Which, yay, war profiteering, which, yeah, the colonel's goofy and he says that he can get them just about anything. With a week's notice, he can get them the odd B-52 crew as extra, which I'll point out because someone will say it is an anachronism. The B-52 was not released until 1955. But I read this as this would be in the early 1950s, 1950, 51. I read this as he's so well connected he can get them a B-52 like experimental if they give him enough notice.
That would
But
make it the odd B-52. I mean,
yes.
I know what that really means, but still.
Yeah. Colonel Lambert is funny until you see the meme of Raytheon, Boeing, and Grumman Northrop stock rising the same day that the Israel-Palestine war started, and then you're like, huh.
Yeah, I need to get in the
Anyway,
stock market, but only do the trades that I see these senators
Q,
and congressmen do.
yeah, cue war pigs in the background, generals scattered in their masses. Anyway,
Deck the halls with boughs of holly.
God, I saw that video the other day. Someone doing whatever the fuck that Christmas carol is.
Deck the halls.
Yeah, deck the halls, but to the tune of War Pigs. That's fucking awful. I hate it. Don't worry, I'll give you another cursed one. It's Pinball Wizard, but to the tune of Folsom Prison.
No!
I'll send you the link after this. But so yeah, Colonel Lambert is basically making a profit off the war. Let's see. Okay, so Hawkeye and Trap say, okay, who's your superior officer? And he's like, well, that would be General Maynard M. Mitchell, who we have met, which I think, I didn't look this up, but I'm pretty sure this means the production order of the episodes is a little off. This is probably the first episode we meet General Mitchell. The Trial of Henry Blake would be the second, and then his third of Third MASH appearances is one we have not watched yet. But yeah, General Maynard M. Mitchell, who we met in the Trial of Henry Blake. The reason I say this is probably his, in the production order, the first appearance is because he doesn't know who Hawkeye and Trapper are or who their commanding officer is when he asks. So that's my reasoning for that. He is played by Robert F. Simon, who the fun acting credit he has is he was J. Jonah Jameson in the 1978-79 Spider-Man TV series.
He would be a very good.
He would be a very fun J. Jonah Jameson. And I grew up with I love that the agreed upon only person that can play J. Jonah Jameson in any iteration of Spider-Man currently is fuck, I'm gonna forget his name. Whiplash guy. Omni-Man.
I know who you mean.
J.K. Simmons. J.K. Simmons. I love that he is across all universes currently in the Spider-Man movies. He is J. Jonah Jameson. But he
became
J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah.
Side note: because of Whiplash, I'm incorporating Weepy Willowed shit sack into my vocabulary more.
I still fucking see you, Mini-Me. Ah,
We see that Hawkeye and Trapper infiltrate a press conference where again, very much tongue in cheeking the army about how they do press conferences. Like, you know, the general's basically making up his answers off the spot, not really giving the press any new or pertinent information that would actually be helpful. And then there's this great scene where Hawkeye and Trapper start probing the general. Why do MASH units not get any incubators? Uh, the general delivers a very bullshit answer. Trapper stands up and says, I have a question. Why won't you answer his question? Uh, Hawkeye doubles back with why don't field hospitals have the equipment they need? Field hospitals that attract a great number of wounded. And I love the little exchange of that answer has a lot of buckshot in it, or that question has a lot of buckshot in it. I'm sure the answer will too.
mm,
Uh, uh, I love the both true statement and also ridiculous statement of the United States Army is the most well-equipped fighting force since the Romans marched into Spain, each man carrying his mess kit full of gazpacho, which is an unhinged statement to make, but okay. Um, the the doctors identify themselves as surgeons in a MASH unit. They continue to probe the general about how they can get an incubator, explaining the process they've gotten to get here, and the reporters start picking up on this and start asking very interesting questions. Uh, and as soon as one of the reporters hears germs, he's like, "General, are we involved in germ warfare?" Which I love the scene because it's tongue in cheek to the army, tongue in cheek to the superiority of the United States as a military power, which clearly they were at the time, but also clearly don't have most of their decisions don't make sense. But also a little bit tongue in cheek at the news media for they heard the word germ and immediately we're involved in germ warfare. We can run with that story. Just what do you think, Ethan? What do you think of the news conference scene?
I'm I guess I'm a little comforted that some things never change, and one of those things is the media at large making mountains out of molehills. You know, if it was
Mhm.
a joke in a TV show from the '70s, that just just makes me feel a little bit better. But also, I mean, good lord, I get that Tweedledee and Tweedledum here aren't exactly one for military brass, but the cojones you have to say that to a general
Mhm.
is that it's more stupidity at this point. Can we agree that that's just not belligerence and stupidity at this point?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So we hard cut from the chaos of the press conference straight to Henry's office where we open with holy cow. Uh, Henry starts reading off the charges brought against Trapper and Hawkeye. Violations of Articles Conduct on Becoming an Officer, violations of Articles 13 through 27 with a repeat on 26. Uh, Basically, they do the stereotypical Trapper and Hawkeye thing. They got in trouble, but it's up to Henry to decide a punishment. But problem is, he can't confine them to quarters or house arrest them because they are once again two of the best surgeons in Korea, and they can't be off duty essentially. Uh, did you really yell, "Give me an incubator" or "Give me death"?
It sounded a lot better in the moment.
Yeah, I love that. You had to be there. Uh, they lament that they didn't succeed in their mission to get an incubator, and they hope no one needs a lab sent to Tokyo when their next batch are wounded. And they walk out into Radar's office, and Deus Ex Radar once again he has acquired an incubator, and we learn that he did this by trading away Henry's grill, and hopes that the incubator can achieve a medium rare state.
Well,
And with that,
yeah.
and with that, we reach the end of the Incubator. Ethan, now that we're here, I know we went off on a lot of tangents, but ignoring the tangents, very quick episode, very simple episode. What did you think of it?
Simple episode, but kind of unhinged, for lack of a better word, in a good way. I think you start with the cold open of the aftermath of that party and them absolutely destroyed, and then it just takes a right turn into a place I never saw it going, and then kind of explore. It was a fun episode. I liked it. You know, this
For
is
for as
it,
simple as it is, unbelievable that it's as good as it is. For as
yeah,
simple of a plot as it is.
absolutely. Yeah, it's just it's kind of I guess the shows sticking their nose or sticking their tongue out at the bureaucracy of the military.
And an episode that takes place, I think, about 50% out of camp,
Yeah,
which is kind of neat.
yeah.
So, Ethan, with that said, what would you rate this episode?
I think I am going to give this a 4.3 out of 5.
Point three.
4.3. 4.3 out of 5.
I am conflicted. I started with, is this a 5 out of 5 episode? I don't think it's a 5 out of 5. Then I went down to 4.5, and I'm like, I think it's a little better than. I'm gonna say it's a 4.75. It is a really
Mm.
good episode. Uh, for me, I think there are better episodes, but not many. So I'm comfortable saying 4.75. It's and again, I said this a couple episodes back. If I rate an episode above a 4, it's fantastic. It's the 4 and above is great. It's after that, it's nitpicking kind of which ones are slightly better than the other. But and then 5s are absolutely must watch episodes for me. But moving on from that, let's
Does
get some of the audience. Oh, yes.
Oh, I was just gonna ask if this episode ever makes it into like the top of all time, because I know you've
It
perused some of those lists.
I don't recall. It's probably a higher up on there. Let's just see. What is IMDb? This episode got an basically a 4 out of 5 on IMDb and 8.1 out of 10. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's definitely up there. It's one of the higher rated MASH episodes, and for good reason. I think some of our audience members really hit the nail on the head for why, and I will share some of those right now to the audience. We're gonna go to our Patreon first. We are on Patreon. I don't think I've really pitched this much in the last couple episodes. We are on Patreon. You can support us. We have a couple different tiers depending on your uh, level of support you want to give. So before we read their comments, I will say thank you very much to Lieutenant Mike Jameson, Sergeant Timothy Burleson, Private Jared Gallagher, and Ethan. Guess what?
What?
We have a new Patreon member,
Not a chance. No way.
Sergeant Luis Black.
Wow.
Yeah, we're up to 4. We have like a tiny squad of people.
Ready to do our willing? Go forth into the night. It is time. You have your instructions. You know what must be done.
All right then.
Could you bring
Uh,
me back some McDonald's? I'm really hungry and the car's broke down.
yeah. So we will start with our newest member, Louise. She rates it a 3.5, not because there's anything particularly bad, but because I know there are way better ones coming up this season. Fair.
Mm-hmm.
The beginning of this episode is great. Wayne Rogers genuinely looking like he was trying not to vomit, and Radar is nonchalant. Nah, I was too sleepy when asked if he'd been sacrificed during the night. Were particularly hilarious. Good old Mike Jameson. This episode really highlights all the things that made early MASH great. 100%. We're not there yet. I keep hinting at it every time this comes up. There is a very I break MASH into 4 distinct eras. This is a great, I'd say this 5 o'clock Charlie and Chief Surgeon Who are great examples of early MASH shenanigans, but also storytelling. There are a couple other ones in there that are a little more serious that I think are good for MASH as a whole. But as far as the early season go, this is a definitely a highlight of the first 3 seasons. Mike continues with the debauchery, the anti-establishment viewpoint, skewering the illusion of military efficiency and dominance, along with the nimble wordplay and hilarious character moments. One of the better episodes to introduce MASH to a newbie. I would agree. This is a good one.
Absolutely.
Hopping over to Twitter, Mike rates this a 4.5 out of 5, by the way. Donut Eater says 4.8, one of the better comedic explorations of army bureaucracy of the show. Each guest character added a lot to this episode, with the press conference and the general being the highlight. Hawkeye Trapper dynamic is on top as well. Chief Smash Forever, 4.5 out of 5. Here Comes the Fire, he says, absolute classic episode. So many funny moments that 140 characters can't express it. The haggling at the press conference. We aren't here to answer any questions. I'll never tire of this episode. Peak season 2 has arrived. Yeah, peak season 2 is here. A lot of the replies we got are people just quote. This is one of the more quotable episodes of MASH. Goose says, I have a question. Why didn't you answer his question? Thomas Glovier says, this is a press conference. The last thing I want to do is answer a bunch of questions. Big Beard Booty Daddy rated this a 4.7 out of 5. Not much that he can add that others have said. One of the funniest episodes. Someone quoting the 375th QMHQ Comp CPAC Solsec Rep Dep. I'll never get tired of saying that. 5 out of 5 from John DH. Yeah, lots of audience response. I could read out every quote that everyone loves, but they're all very memorable. Definitely a very quotable episode. And I think all the audience comments we got, let me check. Actually, no, I think we got some comments. We did. I missed a couple of YouTube comments from earlier. Going back to the previous episode, Donator says if he ever meets Ethan, he'll have to remember to ask for a shoe shine.
Thanks, Donut. Appreciate it, man.
He also he was the one who politely reminded me to post the video version of the MASH movie episode, which is up now. And he had some comments on the MASH movie. He said, as different as it is to the TV show, he agrees that it's interesting how many similarities you can see. Some of them are surely intentional, especially within the early seasons, as the movie was fresh in their minds. He agrees with your comparison that the movie was structured a lot like a Dear Dad episode. There was no major plot, but it jumped around from several different occurrences in the camp. Yeah. Well, that is the Incubator. We have talked much longer than I expected about, but we had some good tangents. A couple notes for the audience. We are going into the holiday season, so I will throw this out right now. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Festivus for the rest of us. I forget what other holidays are this time of year, and if
Kwanzaa, you intolerant shit.
Kwanzaa, I'm sorry. I'm like, there's another one, and I can't remember what it's called, and I'm gonna say the first thing that comes to my mind. I'm gonna be really insensitive culturally. No, Kwanzaa. So Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Festivus, Toyotathon, whatever it is you celebrate.
You know this is a happy holidays household.
Whatever it is you celebrate, I hope it is peaceful and wonderful, and you have a wonderful time, whether that's by yourself, with family, with friends. For those of you that have watched MASH a long time, I will add Dona Nobis Pacem to you. Yeah, we will be back with you at, I believe our next episode will actually come out New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, I believe. That is going to be our favorite media of 2023 episode, because it's a pretty easy one to just squeeze in when we have time during the holiday break. So start thinking about what your favorite books, TV, movies, video games. Again, it doesn't have to be new like it came out in the last year. It can be something you watched or read or did experience for the first time in the world of media. I already have my list going. Uh, Ethan, start thinking about yours. We'll have a good chat about that. I had a lot of fun doing it last year, so I figured we'll bring it back again this year as a nice little break from the regular podcast. And then first episode of the new year is Deal Me Out with our special guest Mike Jameson. And I'll throw out that I'm already setting up the guest after that in a few episodes, which will be Chief Smash Forever will join us for want of a boot, but that's much further on down the line toward March, I believe. So yeah, have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. We love you all. Thank you for listening and watching and supporting and all that jazz. Ethan, do you have any final comments?
Have yourself a Merry Stroke Christmas.
Merry Stroke Christmas.
Or, uh, Hap Crisp Day.
Happy
There we go.
Chris Day. Oh no.
I got
With
nothing.
that, yeah. With that, folks, thanks for listening, and we will talk to you later. Bye bye.